Hey, 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 people. It's Carrie. All right. Come with me on my travels. I'm hands-free. So yesterday I let it rip and I shared some feelings and some thoughts that I've been very afraid to share for fear that people would leave my community or judge me. And I'm going to continue. I'm going to continue because um, many weeks ago, I was told by God, thou shalt not fear. Because, hey, it is now. The time is now to not be afraid of who you are and speaking what is true to you. And I'm going to share a little story. I'm just going to share. So this morning, I'm going to start with this morning when I woke up and I saw my 9-year-old sleeping next to my bed. She sleeps right next to me on a mattress because she wants to be near me. And those of you who know, I don't live with my children. I'm going to get into how I've rebuilt my entire life and how I actually am at complete peace with what is going on in my life. And I looked at our dog curled up next to her, and I looked at my husband lying in the bed next to me, and I just put my hand over my heart and I said, oh my God, this is my life. This is really, truly the experience that I chose and that I chose to create. And it continued to get better. And my little one, my 9-year-old, got up, and my husband and I were snuggling on the couch, and we had coffee, and he was on his phone, and I was just kind of, lying on his chest, and my daughter comes over and just gives us a hug, and he pulls her close and kisses her on the head and says, I love you. And the dog, of course, then jumps on top of us, and I breathe in again, and I just say, oh my gosh, this is just such a beautiful life that I chose. And I look back and I remember when my life was anything but blessed. My life was really, really hard. And so the morning it just kept getting better. My daughter sends me a text message, and she says she's in the downstairs in her bedroom with her sister, and she's texted me, Mom, it's Dad's birthday. Can we get him a birthday present? And I said, sure. And she's like, and can I drive? And I, went downstairs, and she got up out of the bed, and she just came to me and she gave me this big, beautiful hug. And I said, oh man, just can't get any better than this. And it kept going. My kids are in the kitchen and they are on their phones. My 9-year-old is doing YouTube lives, and she's doing all of these shorts and, putting me on camera. And my oldest are talking to each other, and I'm making them breakfast for the second time. And I just pause and I put my hand over my heart and I just say, oh man, I've dreamed of moments like this. And I can't tell you the feeling of the comeback, the feeling of, oh my gosh, the life that I dreamed of and that I really had to fight for. What I had to fight for was I had to create the new, and I had to overcome the illusions in my mind and the lies and stories that I believed in order to overcome my fears of the future and creating the future and becoming the woman I am today. And Um, I remember the moments in my life when I was facing um, judgment. I was facing, well, I'll just give you some examples. I'm going to break down a little bit more of when I left my marriage and when people told me that I was crazy. I'm leaving a marriage and I have three children and my child is not even 1 year old yet. And what are you going to do? You're not going to have a place to live. You're not going to, what are you going to do? I had a loved one tell me, but he doesn't hit you. So I don't understand why you're leaving. And there were times in my first marriage when I'd have to barricade myself in the bathroom because that was the only door that stayed locked. And I did that several times. And there was a time in my life where I said, enough, enough. And that the moment that I walked out the front door with my kids and I drove 2 hours to a friend's house and wrote up the paperwork for a, what do you call it, restraining order, and slept in one bed with my three daughters. I didn't sleep at all that night, but there was something within the absolute anxiety of what the future would bring and how I was going through an extraordinarily hard time. What was also happening and activating in me was a true sense of freedom that I had rose up and I had taken the steps that were hard and that were scary, but that those steps were necessary steps to get my first expansion into freedom, freeing myself and freeing my children from a very unaligned life. I didn't want to see them. I didn't want them to see me that way anymore. And so the last 10 years, I shouldn't say my entire life, but this has been in me since I was baby. This yearning for freedom and to know who I am and to be expansive and to live a dream that I knew was inside of me, since the first memory that I had of what life was meant to be versus what everybody was telling me it had to be. And I there were countless moments. I mean, millions of tiny little moments in my life where I had to make a choice. Some of those choices were big choices, like leaving a marriage, leaving a career, putting myself first above what other people told me I needed to put first. It was like putting my future before my past, really, really going all in with myself and saying, I believe enough in myself to make this decision. And what happened when I believed in myself enough to make this decision is I up leveled. My life up leveled. And when the up level came, the blessings came. And the reason why I'm sharing all this with you guys is because I'm up leveling. I realize that I have been playing small in this community. I realize that I've been entertaining, keeping a lot of you feeling like it's okay to tolerate your inadequacies, in your mediocrity, in your, hiding behind, the hiding behind your own fail and, feeling the pain of your own discomfort with being in your comfort zone, right? And so I want to share with you that life begins outside of your comfort zone. And life begins when you start to make, really pave your own way. Life begins when you start doing the things that you say you're going to do for yourself. And that's the only way that you can actually feel confident. You can feel self-assured. You can start to trust yourself, and you can trust the universe when um, you actually start leaping. And within the leap, you're always caught. The universe always catches you, and you never know what those blessings are going to be. So just to um, the beautiful morning I had, the feeling of love and joy and peace, um, that is abundance. Okay, the true meaning of abundance is looking at your life, and even when it's not perfect, and even when there's things that are missing, that you can look at you can look at it through a lens and say, wow, everything is divinely orchestrated right now. Everything is divine. It is in the right place, at the right time. And I want to share a little bit deeper because, it's very aware to me that the world is heading in a direction where we need more people who are embodied in their power. We need more women and men who are making choices that are aligning with um, a better future for ourselves and for our kids. We need more people who are getting out of the box and really learning how to expand their view on life and their perceptions around what is going on, and also what you're going to start doing about it, right? Because in my call to action yesterday was that there's no more sitting and waiting for anybody else to save you. The blessings are going to come from the people who understand that it's your number one job and number one priority to do one, two, or three things. Number one is whatever is holding you back, you've got to break up with that version of you. And the only way you're going to break up with the version of you that's holding you back is you've got to become the person who you were meant to be. And those two things simultaneously create a ripple effect. And I want to talk just a quick thing about the ripple effect, because you're already making a ripple in your life right now. You're already contributing to a story. You're already contributing to energy on earth. And if you are not living according to who you are meant to live, then you're making a ripple and you're contributing to the downfall of humanity right now. Because the thing about it is that you know that there is something different and better and bigger that you should be doing, being, and creating. I'm not talking to the people who absolutely don't know, who know, but they're never going to do it. I'm not even going to get to that. This is for the people who that you actually have something inside of you that is a burning desire to change your life, and you don't know how to do it. And you also are at any given moment ready to say, I want to know what the next steps are. Okay, because here's what you guys get to know about me is that I am a risk taker, and without risk, you get zero reward, because you just stay in your absolute comfort zone, in your la land, where you think that everything is going to be okay, and I'm gonna, the world's gonna change and it's gonna get better for me. But what you don't actually understand is that you are the one to change your world. And then when you change your world, you actually change the world. And what's happening right now is God's looking for the world changers, but you don't have to do the heavy lifting. God does that. What you're responsible for is taking taking action steps on your desires. When you take action steps on your desires, what happens is you break the karma, you create new pathways, and those new pathways become your reality. Okay, so there's a couple different notes that I'm gonna jump around a little bit, because these are things that, like I said, I haven't shared. They're not like smooth, and nothing is smooth right now. We'll just say that, like, absolutely nothing is smooth right now. I'm recording this the day before the eclipse. I don't know what's going to happen with the eclipse, but I know the energy is shocking. I know the energy is biting. I know the energy is tragic. I feel it because I'm seeing what's going on around me. And at the same time, my morning was like heaven on earth. It included love. It included peace. It included, this is the way life is supposed to be. And none of what I've created in my life, my soulmate marriage, a business that's thriving in a downturned economy, a relationship with my daughters that is better than I could have ever expected, that when my entire life took a detour and I had no way to control what was, we'll just say, what the pathway that God put me on, right? Which was like, you're going to be a leader. I'm going to equip you with everything that you need. I'm going to use your story as your testimony, and you're going to go out and share it. And the best is yet to come for you always. Like, I'm always creating something beautiful. At the same time, what I'm doing is I'm always evolving myself from the inside out. And I want to make this so super clear to you guys that nothing that you put out there externally from a place of fear, none of that is going to stick. There's going to be a ripple effect for that. Okay. And that ripple effect is it's just going to snap back at some point to you, and you'll have to rectify it another way on the inside. So we're talking about going into a world right now, in the new world, where you have abundance on the inside already. You already have it. You're using an inner mechanism. If you don't know what that is, if you don't know how to alchemize pain into abundance, if you don't know how to unlock your inner wisdom, if you don't know how to do it, then book a call with me and I'll talk about some next steps for you. Okay? Because this is not a process that's shared in a book. I'm never going to share that process with you on a free call. I'm meaning a video. It's just, I'm a businesswoman, and this work that I share is incredibly sacred. I'm telling you how to unlock your own inner fantasy world. I'm telling you how to live your dreams, and I'm giving you all the tools. But those things don't come for, like peanuts. It's like, they don't come for free. You know what I mean? So we'll just say the sacrifice of being able to live a life where you're creating freedom for yourself in all ways is that you have to give up a version of yourself that has been holding you back all along. You guys know, I mean, you are self-improvement people. And you know exactly that when you look at yourself, you're saying, wow, I'm really hiding behind my fears. If you're anything like me in the past, and even now, as I get bigger and bigger, I always go up against, what are people going to think of me? If I become the person who I was born to be, that means that people might not like me. I've gone through many, many, many occasions where I have had to, evolve, and I've had to make choices that have brought me to much higher alignment, where I've had to walk away from communities. I've had to walk away from friendships. Those things hurt temporarily. Certainly walking away from a marriage, an entire life with that was painful. But what happens when you actually walk through pain and you are unlocking the next level life at the same time, which is the work that I do, what happens is you're freeing yourself, And you don't ever go back to creating the life that you had. And I'm going to use marriage as the biggest example. You attract who you are. And so if you've been attracting the wrong things, specifically if you've been attracting the wrong partners, or if you've been seeing things show up in your life where you're like, no, I don't want to be around these people. I don't want to have this career. It simply means that what your heart is telling you, it's time to up level. In order to up level, you have to start to understand that the up level, if you want to make it permanent, which is I'm assuming that when you want to up level your life and you want to change your life, you don't want to go back to the same version of you who you've been, so that your up level becomes permanent. And what happens is you start going up and up and up and up, because that's human evolution. That's actually evolution. And that's what we're designed to do. We're designed to evolve. As human beings right now, we have a version of ourselves that we're always letting go of so that we can evolve. But what I see a lot of is I see a lot of people not evolving and thinking that they are letting go by doing energy clearings and doing Reiki and getting healings and all those things. But the evolution is missing. And the evolution comes from being self-led and starting to make choices that, quite frankly, some of the choices, because they're going to be new choices, paving new ground, doing new things, are going to feel a little bit scary. But that is where the transformation occurs. It's when you walk through a gateway or a doorway where you say, I'm a little scared, but I don't want fear to control me anymore. So I am going to take these action steps. So me being super fired up yesterday, a little bit heated. It was me saying, you know what, I'm scared to do this video. And I could have put it off and not done it. But I actually said, you know what, I'm going to do it right now. I'm going to do it right now. So if I do it right now, what happens is I'm going to make a big impact, because I'm breaking through fear of being seen, fear of being heard, fear of being judged, fear of being me. And I'm actually putting myself out there to let my community know that this is what I'm doing right now. Now, what happened was there was an instant release. What happened with that was there was an instant release on the inside of me. That was a release of freedom. Then I went to go get my kids. And what happened in that moment was my heart got bigger. I unlocked abundance within me because I went through something that I had been not allowing myself to release, which was the burden of not being me, being able to speak authentically. And because I was afraid that people would judge me or leave my community, when in fact the day before I had a dream that I was speaking truth and people did leave, but what ended up happening was the right people stayed. The right people stayed. And that is a metaphor for life, the up level. It's a metaphor for showing you guys that when you do up level, there's going to be some chaos, but none of the chaos is going to be as intense as if you stayed where you were, energetically, metaphorically, meaning not growing. And yesterday I said, it's time to grow up. It's time to grow up. And I want to say this, it's time to stop being a victim of any type of circumstance, because the world is going to be absolutely abundant in victims, more so going into this time period that we're in. But victimhood is only rewarded with pain and agony and more dysfunction. The people who are going to be rewarded greatly are going to be the ones who are being in victory, right? And I want to tell you about the comeback story of what could happen for you if you started to make decisions that were aligned with your future, rather than prolonging the pain of staying where you are, wherever that is, in the job, in the relationship, in the state of being that you are. Because we'll say this right now, anxiety and depression, those are raging right now. And I suffered from both anxiety and depression. And I'm very honest with my community that says, you know what, those things don't go away. You have to stay on top of that. When I get anxiety, it means something's up. It always means it's time to grow. It always means that I'm, too far in the future, and that I have to learn how to become peaceful in the moment. So there's specific things that I do. And if I don't generally go to get into a depressed state, I will say what I've been feeling a lot lately is the pain of the collective, who is very, very stuck, and the apprehension, because the energies right now are activating major fear codes. But when I feel those things, I simply say, this is my soul telling me it's time to come home to myself and find peace within. And what happens when I do that is my life is beautiful. My relationship deepens. My kids out of the blue will call me and be like, Mom, like, I want to bring a friend with me, or something. My clients will have breakthroughs. I'll get a message in here like, oh my God, like I just started to feel like peaceful because I'm doing something on the inside. Because as a leader, I'm creating a new consciousness just by making these choices that are higher in a higher alignment. And I'll just say this, I'm going to say everything that I was told in dreams. I was told to let people know, you're going to want to be with me during these next several years. You're going to want to stick close to me. You're going to want to know, how does she do it? Because when we're faced with an alternative, all you have to look at is, if your life never changed and kept going in the same direction because you didn't know how to take control of your life and start to level up, could you imagine more of the same? And I've been in that situation so many times. I shared yesterday about last winter and how I was depressed. I was alienated from my kids. I thought I was unworthy. I had one thing going in the right direction, and that was a very stable and loving marriage. And that is a constant. And that is really, deeper part of that is I understand how men and women are supposed to function together. And I have very, very strong connection and communication skills. I also have very strong leadership when breakdowns occur. You want to know, how does something break down, and how do you build that same exact time? Because what's happening right now is there's always a version of ourselves that is breaking down. But what people think the breakdown is they think they get into fear around it. They get into fear around the breakdown. They get into fear around when some things don't feel right. And then when the things that they usually do to make themselves feel right, when those don't work, panic sets in. Am I ever going to feel safe? Am I ever going to feel joy again? And I'm here to tell you, absolutely yes. But the way to do that is through an inner process. It is through a process where you get connected to yourself on the inside, where you become instantaneously a new version of yourself. I call this like an inner alchemy. It's what I teach. And again, I'm not going to tell you exactly how to do it here. It's what I teach in my coaching programs. And when you do that, it's like you are birthing a new you. You're birthing a new you. And of course, when you birth a new you have to learn a new way of living. So my marriage is new. It's called a new human marriage. It is a marriage between a man and a woman who have decided to make love first and foremost, in a world where everything but love has been first and foremost for men and women. and the fears and the power struggles and the lack of communication and the lack of true, I'm going to say like conflict management, conflict resolution. I'm going to say conflict resolution, where you are able to be in a conflict, but actually evolve yourselves through a conflict, through an approach that you take, where you come out on the other side of, no matter what it is, building more love and connection. I mean, come on, you guys, who doesn't want that? In a world that is so disconnected, in a world that is literally like breaking apart, we need these skills. And these skills are all, these are part of my everyday repertoire. What happens when something breaks? Well, it's a rebuild, but it's how you rebuild it. It's a specific approach that allows that to become permanent. It allows it to be an up level. It allows it to be more abundant. So you're talking pain into pleasure. You're talking pain into abundance. And this is how you live an abundant life. And you want to tie it into frequency. Think about how low frequency pain is. Think about how, I'll tell you this right now. I'll use this example. Yesterday, because I was coming from a triggered space, I was in a lower frequency yesterday. But by sharing and being real and being honest and giving myself full permission to say, hey, I don't care what people think. I am going to speak this. And that was from a place of, and being inflamed, because I was pissed at myself for holding myself so back so much. And that also transferred to me being kind of angry because I was sick and tired of the same people telling me the same old thing about their sob stories. And I can't do this and I can't do that, and I don't have this and I don't have that. Like, for me, that was an energy suck. So I had to break through that. The way that I broke through that is I was honest. Honesty, truth, living my truth. I no longer tolerate these, this. I no longer tolerate people's lies. I've had lots of hard moments. I've had lots of issues in my life. I've had lots of stuff, but those were the up level parts. Those are the liberating parts. And so talk about frequency, the low frequency of me hanging out in that space, entertaining the stuck energy, being like, oh, I can't say this, I can't say that. People are who's gonna believe me if I say this? And who's gonna trust me if I speak this way? Well, guess what? People responded, but it wasn't the people who I was afraid to intimidate. It was the people who I knew were ready for an up level. They knew that you're speaking truth. I felt it in my bones. You're speaking truth. Those are the people. When I speak truth and it hits you in the bones and in the core and in the soul, you know there's something there, right? And after I spoke that, I experienced a beautiful up level, heart opening. And my kids walked right into that. Joy. Mom was free, right? Mom was free from that limit. Mom freed herself from that limit. There's nothing more powerful. If you are a mother, a grandmother, that's the work. My kids are going to face that limit at some point, but they're going to say, you know what? I remember feeling mom's heart. I remember feeling her confidence. I remember feeling her trust. I remember her feeling the love that she had for her husband. I remember seeing them and feeling their energy as they made breakfast in the kitchen. I remember that feeling. And how do I get that feeling, Mom? Right? How do I get that feeling that you created for us? But it didn't start like that. No stories, no beautiful stories that become books and movies. No beautiful stories start out happy. They all start out in a place where someone is forced to make a decision to better their lives. In all beautiful stories, there's people in their lives that tell them that's never going to work. In all beautiful, happy ending stories, there are always challenges that people have to overcome. You never, ever, ever hear someone who has done something great, someone who's turned themselves around, someone who's gone from victim to victory. You've never heard that it was just handed to them. What you hear stories of how people just like you have done things that they never thought they were going to do and realize how powerful they actually were, because number one, they had someone to believe in them. And sometimes that only takes one person. For me, it was a coach who saw my future in a reading, and she saw who I could become. And you know what? I said, I'm going to become her. I'm going to become her. And every day I make a choice. Am I going to be, my strength, my fitness coach calls it 2.0. She said to me, in the last 2 weeks before they announced the winner of what I call this Winter Sculpt Challenge. So in January, I had been working with a trainer on and off for a year, inconsistent, and I was sick and tired of being inconsistent. So I said, all right, I'm hiring this coach and I'm going to be consistent. I had already worked with a coach for 7 years and I was consistent with that. And it paid off in massive dividends. My life has completely changed in all ways. I'm a completely new person. That's the power of coaching, consistent coaching. So I said to myself, all right, whatever comes along my pathway, I'm going to say yes to it. I've done this many times and it's always worked. Because I'm coachable, but I also am my own worst enemy. So I'll let you know that as well. But when you have a coach, point out your blind spots and be like, wait a minute here, something doesn't add up, and you're honest with yourself, then you can be like, oh yeah, I'm hiding. Or, oh yeah, like I can do much better. Or I've got to recommit here. Or, oh, this is an amazing approach. I never thought of that. Let me try it. Right. And so December rolls around and I'm thinking last winter was horrible. I want to ski this winter. I want to be with my kids more this winter. I want this winter to be completely different. I knew that it had to start with me because no one else was going to do it for me. As much as I have an amazing husband, he can't fulfill all my desires. Like that's not what a husband's job is. You have to do that for yourself. And then they meet you in that. And it's a beautiful dance. So I get this email and it's like Winter Sculpt Challenge. 3 months and the winner gets a professional photo shoot. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so neat. I want to win this. And so I sign up for it. And, I start off where I am with my fitness and I submit these pictures and, I look at my life. I just got back from Italy and hadn't really been working out. And I'm like, I'm not really where I want to be, but I know that this has come along for me to actually help me be where I want to be. So heck yes, sign me up. And it's hard, right? I get this. First, we have to like log into all these apps and we have to upload all this stuff. And it's like time consuming. And at the same time, I've realized that I've got to change my diet. Like I've got to eliminate all these foods. And I'm like, oh my God, like I have to learn how to cook different things and shop. And like, I literally was like, oh, what did I do? So I go into like fear of my greatness is really what was happening. Like I'm afraid of my greatness at this point, and I don't think that I can do it, and I don't think that I can handle it. But I have this approach that I take to my life where I actually like get really friggin' real, but then I get super gentle with myself and I'm like, you know what? You don't have to do this all at once. It's week 1 and you don't have to have it all figured out, because that's where the anxiety came in. The anxiety was like, oh my God, I have to like do this, and I have to like record my food, and I have to like work out for like an hour and a half a day. And then on top of it, I have to do 7,500 steps a day. And I got like, I just had to get real with myself. I'm like, okay, let's take this from a growth mentality. So I coached myself through that. My coach didn't really have to do that because this is what I do for people. I take like overwhelming, like chaos, and I create order through it. Be like, no, honey, no, 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 no. We don't have to approach life from a, oh my God, state of mind. We get to approach life from an expansive state of mind. How do all these pieces fit together? How do we make it all come together so that you're not a nervous wreck? And so I coached myself through that. And I came up with a systemized approach to winning. And lo and behold, I freaking won. I freaking won. And I can tell you this, I am so like, of course I won, because this is a winning approach to life. It wasn't even about how much weight I lifted. Sometimes I didn't follow things perfectly. I didn't do the 7,500 steps. I told my coach sometimes where I was like, that's way too much for me. And then I did it at my pace. I didn't do all the workouts to completion. There were so many issues that came up that I had to face. You know, like I think I got food poisoning one time. Traveling, I had to make adjustments. And over the course of the 3 months, I learned how to approach life through an even more graceful state, where my husband actually looked back and he was like, I'm in awe of what you're doing, and every check-in. So I had to check in with my coach every 2 weeks, and I had to submit my because it was fitness and like a sculpt. So I like sculpted my body, your weight, your measurements, and what you ate. And they give you a special diet, and it's awesome. I love it. It's like, now to me, it's a lifestyle. And this is lifestyle I always knew I was going to be living. I always looked at myself and be like, I wonder what my body could do if I stuck to a nutrition plan where I was eating whole foods, not putting junk in it. And if I actually worked out the way that I know my body's meant to be, because I'm meant to be strong, I'm an athlete, and my body's meant to be optimized. So I did it. I gave myself permission. I'm like, but I didn't know how to do any of that stuff. I was like floundering and being like, frig, I'm so trained to be like, who's going to be my coach? Like, oh, okay, this one, the one who's on a fitness magazine, because I want a body of a fitness model. I want to look like a Lululemon model because I know I can. Right? And so who's going to teach me how to do that? All right, here we go. Here's the plan. I'm going to follow it, but I'm going to take a specific approach to it. And again, this is my approach to life. How do you make it permanent? How do you take something that you want to be your lifestyle, and how do you make it permanent? I call it, some coaches call it an embodiment. I embodied what was necessary to make these permanent changes in my life, but I also gave myself the major flexibility to not be perfect at it and understand that that was the divine perfection. And that's the winning approach. All right. So I'm going to leave you at this. I am not talking to everybody. You either know that I'm talking to you and you don't give a frig and you're not going to change, or you know that I'm talking to you and you're like, now it's me now. I want to be the next breakthrough. I want to be the next woman who moves from, victimhood or, kind of mediocrity into, wow, look at who I can become. And this is not a rapid transformation process. I will tell you that right now, because I don't teach people how to massively change their life, because that would actually bonk you out. Just like what I was sharing with the last 3 months was like, if I threw too much at you all at once, your nervous system would implode and you would run in the other direction. That's what I wanted to do when I got all of this, you know, all the apps. I don't have any of that stuff. I coach one-on-one. I coach one-on-one, and we start where you are with what you have, and we do a gradual up level. Okay. I understand that everybody watching this is in tender places. They're probably looking at their wounds and their deficits more than they're looking about how you could actually optimize those. You're probably majorly underestimating who you are, but you also have goals where, wow, I wonder what it'd be like if I stopped underestimating my power and I actually started to unlock it. And again, this is like now, right? Like you want to know more about this now. I'll leave a link for you to book a call in the comments and we'll see who shows up. The other thing about it is like, I'm totally fine doing these videos and people, you know, watching and being like, yeah, I don't think I have what it takes. But the thing about it is like, when you know how to up level your life, the challenges that you face become the triumphs. And when you are in triumph, when you're in victory over whatever the challenge may be, because this is the approach that I teach, then you know that there's nothing, and I mean nothing, that can stop you. There's nothing that can stop you, and you actually use everything that is going on around you to build you. And I'm going to leave it at this. I haven't talked about like what's going on in the world, but I'll just say this. The world is looking for people who are doing things differently. We can call it the sheep, and I know you aren't a sheep, but you're a sheep if you stay awake to what your possibilities are, and you're a sheep if you are belittling yourself and saying, I don't think I have what it takes. You're not my person. My person is like, wait a minute, I know that I have something, and I know that I want to know what the heck it is. And this is what got me. Oh my God, this is what drove me. This is what drove my soul and still does. I am not one to tolerate being stagnant when I know I'm meant to evolve and grow and become somebody better every single moment. I know that the actual reason why I'm born is to exceed my own expectations and live a beautiful, extraordinary life. And I have already done that. And the proof that I'm seeing is it does just keep getting better. It does keep getting better because you are nature. You are born to evolve and you are born to grow. And I'm going to leave it this too. God put a purpose inside of you. God put desires inside of you. God made you absolutely perfect in the likeness of God on the inside with a vision. And in a world right now that is so separated and so disconnected, and families that are separated and disconnected and going through the motions and lacking the connection and love, and war that's going on within ourselves and outside of ourselves in human form, like you're at war with people, you're at war with yourself, you're not living the way you're meant to be living, then that's the call. This is the call right now. This is the time. This is the time. This is the moment you've been waiting for. This is the only chance at life, this lifetime that you're in. I don't know about reincarnation for everybody here or how many more lifetimes you have, but why are you going to waste any more time? All right, I'll see you on your call. Bye.